The morning of December 18, 1944, was bitterly cold. A column of German armored vehicles rumbled through the Belgian countryside, their goal clear: seize the strategic town of Stavelot. At the head of this spearhead was SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper, seated in his massive Tiger II, often called the King Tiger. Peiper's orders were urgent: take Stavelot, secure the vital bridge across the river, and then push deeper into Allied territory. Yet the problem was obvious. His heavy Tigers, though nearly invulnerable, crawled at a frustratingly slow pace. If he wanted momentum, he needed faster cavalry. "Bring the Panthers forward," he barked. Two medium Panther tanks rolled out of line, their engines growling. They were quicker, more agile, and better suited for the initial dash. Peiper's gamble was clear: if Stavelot's bridges could be taken before the Americans destroyed them, the German offensive, part of the wider Battle of the Bulge, might keep its momentum. The Panthers roared down the narrow Belgian road, tracks clanking, turrets scanning for threats. As they rounded a bend, they opened fire wildly at suspected American positions across the river. But the defenders were ready. Hidden at the bridge was a 57mm American anti-tank gun. Its crew had been waiting for just this moment. The weapon fired, striking the lead Panther near its engine. Smoke poured out as the crippled tank ground to a halt, blocking the road. The second Panther surged past its burning twin. The commander aimed directly at the American gun, and the crew gunned their massive machine forward. The U.S. gunners abandoned their weapon just as the 45-ton tank smashed into it, crushing the emplacement beneath its treads. Still under fire, the Panther crew reversed, then sped across the bridge, drawing American bullets and shells that ricocheted off its armor. Inside the town, danger waited again. Another anti-tank gun had been set up to cover the streets. The German commander shouted to his machine gunner, who instantly opened fire, pinning down the Americans. Desperate, the U.S. crew managed one hasty shot, but it sailed wide. The Germans replied with a shell at point-blank range, the deafening blast throwing dirt and debris into the air. Moments later, the Panther rolled straight over the second gun, crushing it flat. The way into Stavelot was opening. With the American defenses faltering, Peiper finally ordered his King Tigers forward. One by one, the massive beasts crossed the bridge, their Maybach engines growling like thunder. The objective now was clear: seize the American fuel depots. The German offensive was starving for gasoline, and Peiper knew his tanks could not continue without it. But U.S. forces under Major Paul J. Solis were not about to hand it over easily. Seeing the German heavy armor closing in, Solis ordered a withdrawal, yet before leaving he made sure to destroy the fuel dump north of Stavelot, denying Peiper the prize he desperately needed. When Peiper saw the smoke of the burning fuel, he was furious. His entire plan relied on capturing those supplies. Reinforcements from the south, led by Obersturmführer Jürgen Wessel, were still delayed. With his Tigers now across the river, Peiper chose to press westward in search of fuel, leaving only infantry and a thin screen of defenders to hold Stavelot. The German infantry tried to dig in, preparing for Wessel's heavy tanks to arrive. But instead of friendly reinforcements, the ominous sound of engines came from the north. On the ridgeline, a column of American Shermans, M10 tank destroyers, and infantry appeared. From their elevated position, they unleashed shell after shell into Stavelot. The German defenders were pinned down and desperately radioed for help. Wessel, finally moving north with his company of King Tigers, heard the call. "Hold on, we are coming," he replied, urging his crews forward. Hours later, his heavy armor thundered into Stavelot just as the fighting reached its peak. Leading the charge, Wessel guided his King Tiger across the bridge. But hidden on the far bank, an American M10 had him in its sights. The first round slammed into the Tiger's mantlet, jamming the gun and injuring the loader. Wessel urged his men forward, but a wrong turn brought his tank into the sights of yet another M10. The second shot rattled the Tiger but failed to penetrate. Wessel ordered a retreat, but in the chaos, his 70-ton tank smashed backward through a house, collapsing the roof. The engine died, leaving the tank crippled. Wessel ordered his crew to abandon it and fled to another vehicle. Meanwhile, Peiper's western advance was stalled when U.S. engineers blew up another crucial bridge. "Damn engineers!" he cursed. As Wessel struggled to hold Stavelot, American air power arrived. P-47 Thunderbolts swooped down, rockets screaming into the German column. Explosions tore through the lead tanks, immobilizing several Tigers and trapping the others behind them. Without their heaviest armor in the fight, German infantry were pushed back street by Sherman guns. By nightfall, the shattered survivors withdrew across the river. The bridge became no man's land, the battlefield littered with wrecks. South of the river, another German gambit was unfolding. Commandos from the Stavelot Brigade, dressed in stolen American uniforms, drove captured jeeps toward Stavelot. Their goal was to slip past the defenses and cause confusion behind enemy lines. At first, their ruse seemed to work. They reached the bridge under cover of night. But the Americans were alert. Suspicious sentries opened fire, and within moments the column of disguised commandos was shredded by machine gun fire. The deception had failed. At dawn, the King Tiger, still stationed south of Stavelot, tried again. Tank number 222 rumbled into open ground. Across the river, an American M10 tank destroyer crew spotted it. They fired. One round struck above the tracks, halting the beast. A second round tore through the frontal plate. A third punched into the side armor. The German crew tossed smoke grenades and bailed out, escaping the wreck. The loss of the lead Tiger killed the momentum of the southern push. The Americans held firm. Meanwhile, Sturmbannführer Gustav Knittel pushed from the northwest with armor and infantry. Shells rained down as his troops advanced. The Tigers shrugged off hits, but German infantry fell in droves. Still, they pressed the Americans back, threatening to seize the bridge. Realizing it could not be held much longer, U.S. commanders made a fateful decision. Engineers were rushed forward under fire, crawling beneath the bridge with explosives. With bullets cracking overhead, they wired 1,000 pounds of charges and lit the fuse. A thunderous blast shook the valley as the bridge collapsed into the river. For Piper and Knittel, it was a devastating blow. To the west, Piper was still pushing, his tanks nearly dry of fuel. When news came that the Stavelot bridge was gone, he snapped, "Attack them with everything you have. Cross the river or die trying." At dawn on December 20th, waves of SS soldiers charged into the icy river. But before they could reach the far bank, American artillery rained down. Those few who survived the bombardment were cut down by rifles and machine guns. The attempt ended in carnage. On the western flank, Knittel's men kept pressing, but losses mounted. An American M10 tank destroyer caught sight of Tiger number 133. Its 76mm shell slammed into the German giant, punching into the fighting compartment. The Tiger returned fire but missed. The M10 pulled back and radioed for help. 3 Shermans rushed forward, emerging from side streets. Their coordinated fire slammed into the King Tiger, shaking it violently. The heavy tank swung its turret, but it was too slow. Another round struck between turret and hull, damaging the transmission. The crew tried to flee, but the Tiger's track jammed. With hydraulic fluid leaking, they abandoned the crippled beast in a ditch. Another German giant had fallen. The western push faltered. Knittel had no choice but to order a retreat. By now, Piper's column west of Stavelot was completely out of fuel, surrounded and harried by American units. The Germans had to abandon their tanks and escape on foot through the Ardennes. The mission had collapsed. The attempt to seize Stavelot had ended in disaster. The bridges were lost, the fuel was gone, and the vaunted King Tigers had been humbled by determined American resistance. Engineers with explosives and the skies dominated by Allied aircraft. Piper would survive the war, though his name would forever be linked not only with failed offensives but also with atrocities. He would serve 12 years in prison after the conflict. The Battle of Stavelot stood as one more reminder that even the mightiest armor could be stopped when fuel, bridges, and strategy failed.